Hey guys, welcome back to Medical Coding with Blue. Today's episode is all about what are medical coding edits. If you are brand new to my channel, welcome. I am Blue. I'm a medical coder. I have been a medical coder for over 10 years. I created my channel with the hope of sharing all the things that I've learned, the tips, the tricks, telling you about some of my stories so that maybe it'll help you in your career, or if you are brand new, to know what to expect. So I hope that you'll hit that subscribe button for more, and I hope that you'll like this, and I hope that you will share it if this helps you. All right, so let's get started. All right, so we've been talking the last video about some of the medical coding vernacular that you need to know, right? We talked about what abstracting is, we talked about what auditing is, and now today we're talking about edits. What do edits mean? Okay, so edits can come in the form of many different bits of information, right? But the edits are there to help you. The edits are essentially flagging whatever codes is being chosen, whether it's diagnosis or procedure codes, and it's saying, hey, there's an issue here, something's going on. We need to make sure that we look at these things. Now, these things are not always going to just magically pop up when you're like using an encoder. Sometimes it's going to be that you have to understand and know the rules. But with edits will tell you, like, if you're trying to choose a code that is actually you're coding for an adult, right? And you're trying to choose a code that is for a child, it'll let you know. There's an edit that pops up, and it'll say to check the code selection because this is for this range of patient, okay? Or it might be that you are selecting a procedure code and there's the quantity is being changed to a certain number, and it'll say, well, this is medically unlikely to have this many units, okay? So there's many different, like I said, many different types of edits that will come up. And these come up when you're using an encoder. And an encoder, if you don't know, it's a software program that will help you to get all of the codes. You just have to put in a few words and follow the tree, the decision tree, and the codes will pop up. So this makes coding a lot easier, a lot faster. However, you can still get incorrect codes if you are using the wrong wording when you're putting in the words to try to get the code. So you really have to practice when you are using an encoder to make sure that you are selecting the correct wording and you are selecting the correct decisions till you get the final code. Now, I do have a video that's demonstrating how to use the encoder. I will probably leave the link for that down in the description box below. And I will also be leaving a link for the NCCI edits, or the National Correct Coding Initiative. If you are brand new at coding, or even if you've been a veteran medical coder, it is imperative that you really look at these rules and the guidelines and continue to read them. Even if you say, oh, I already know what that is, still look at the website and still see the information that's there, because refreshing your memory and just sort of getting a fresh look at these guidelines is really going to help you to be a sharper medical coder. There are so many rules that we as coders have to follow. So when we get like these little helpful things like these edits that pop up that say, well, if you're reporting more than one procedure, you know, look and see if there's a modifier that needs to be placed, or this procedure goes with this procedure. And so then you would have to look at what you are selecting, because sometimes with procedure coding, it gets really easy to sort of sometimes look at things and sort of look at them differently. And you're like, well, wait a second. And if you're just going by somebody else's word and just sort of putting procedures there without verifying yourself, this can also lead to problems, because if these procedures are being selected together in error and you just sort of keep perpetuating that same error because this is how everybody else does it without really sort of verifying for yourself, that's where problems come into play. And the defense of, well, so-and-so does it this way is not a defense. Every single one of us as medical coders has to learn the rules. The rules are going to take time to learn. This is not something that you're going to learn overnight, and it's probably not something that you're going to learn fully even when you're in school. It is going to occur when you face the issues head on, when you really start to dive into what you're doing and understanding what it is to be a medical coder and what it is to really fully understand all of these things, the edits, and when to apply modifiers and when to change the quantity or of a substance or something or a procedure. And there's a lot of things that go into it. So it's very easy to get overwhelmed, which is why I try to break things down and hopefully like especially talking about, abstracting and auditing and now talking about the edits, hopefully that this will make more sense. Now, another edit that you may get is, of course, when two procedures are being coded together, and it may say that this procedure, if this is separate, then you need to apply a modifier. And this is where understanding your modifiers comes into play. Anytime you're doing procedural coding, modifiers is going to come into play whether you like it or not, okay? So really taking the time to look in your CPT book. If you have the AMA Professional Edition, that's the one that I know. That's the one that I trust. And that's the one that I talk about most often. Now, I talk about this one because, like I said, it is the one that I use. There are other publishers. Now, I can't speak to the detailedness of other publishers. I can only speak to the Optum. Optum in a minute, but the AMA Professional Edition, that's the only one I can speak of when it comes to the CPT book. Now, they have a lot of really good appendixes in the back. I talk about the appendixes all the time. People sometimes will dismiss the appendixes thinking that there's not a lot of information back there, but there is a wealth of information in those appendixes, and there's a lot of really good tidbits as well. So using the appendixes in the CPT Professional Edition will help you if you can get your hands on a coding companion. They're called coding companions. They have one for every specialty, and it talks about the edits for every procedure code as well in those coding companions. And it talks about all of the diagnoses that can go with a particular procedure. And it breaks down the procedure into layman's terms so that even us medical coders can understand it in plain English. So if you have a chance to go onto the Optum 360 coding website. Now, this is not an ad for Optum 360, but this is what I use. And I get this question quite often of what books do I use? When it comes to medical coding books and, all these other reference books, I trust Optum 360 because they are, in my mind, very comprehensive in their approach to explaining these things to medical coders. So they always have plenty of sales if you're interested. They do have books there on evaluation and management. They have books on modifiers. They have specialty books. So it really is worth it to take a look. And I always notice that when it is a holiday weekend, so kind of like right now, I don't know. I haven't been there yet. I have to stay off the Optum 360 coding website because it's really easy for me to start spending money on books because I love books. And everything that you learn from a book is I think, very valuable, especially as a medical coder. And especially when it comes to these edits and everything, and really understanding what these procedures are all entailing. That is why it's very important to understand these so that you don't get these edits that's telling you that this procedure doesn't go with this diagnosis code, or this procedure is not supported by this, or this procedure does not go for this age range of a patient. Whatever the case may be, whatever the edit may be, that edit is essentially telling you that there's something wrong. It's flagging, okay? And there's all of these things that are put into place to keep coders from making mistakes. So really, when you are going through the encoder and an edit pops up at the end that you can't put this diagnosis code with this other diagnosis code, or the amount of units that are selected for this procedure is unlikely, it's very important to pay attention to these things. Don't just do anything that you can to get rid of the edit, okay, just to make it go away. Really kind of understand why. Why does this edit pop up? Why does it say that it needs a modifier? Or why does it say that this diagnosis cannot go with this other diagnosis? Or what is the purpose of whatever is popping up, because there's such a variety. That's why it's very hard for me to sort of pin down an exact example. But like I said, I'm going to leave the link for the NCCI edits. I will also leave the link for Optum 360 coding down in the description box below. So that way, if you are interested in looking at any of these other books, you can see where these other references that you can get. And it should help you, because the more you research and understand, the better. The better you will be, the more sharper you will be. And taking the time to really fully understand your specialty is really going to help you. And I talked about that in the last video as well, with abstracting and auditing, because I think sometimes when coders get into clinics and they don't quite understand, and they're just there and they say, okay, well, I want to just sort of be told what to do. It is about really understanding the why of what you are doing, and that will make you more confident. And you're not going to feel confident in the beginning, okay? That is something that we all go through. But the more you work with it, the more confident that you will get. And I think in the end, it will make you stronger as a coder, because you've gotten much more practice, and you're not in the habit of sort of giving yourself that wall of, I'm going to be great every single time, because it is about learning, okay? And learning the edits, and learning what codes go with what, or learning the appropriate application of modifiers is really going to be huge, okay? And just because you may think, well, that's the biller's job. I'm just the coder. It's the biller's job to figure out all the other stuff. It's not their job. It is a team effort, okay? It's a team effort between the provider, the coder, and the biller. So if everybody can get on board, there's so much more that can be accomplished when people invest in that teamwork, okay? And really sort of understanding. When the coder understands, the coder can explain to the provider. When the biller understands about the insurance company and everything, that their rules, right? They can relay that to the coder. So that way everything sort of comes full circle. So that's that's sort of the very straightforward version of what edits are. I do have another video about edits, and I get a little bit more technical in that one. But for the most part, when you're trying to understand like the vernacular, right, of being a coder, these are a really good way of just sort of breaking it down very easily. An edit is when there's an issue, when something's coming up that doesn't quite look right. And these coding softwares are generally designed to catch those things, because it's really trying to give you the most chance for accuracy as possible, because we're all human, okay? And because of this, we have to have these things in place to sort of help us, you know? And while the encoder is great, it is also good for the coder to know and understand why, okay? So that's the message for today. So I hope this helped. I know this was a very straightforward explanation, but sometimes that's all it takes. But like I said, take some time to look down at the link that I'm leaving for NCCI and really sort of understand it. Just take your time reading it. You don't necessarily have to understand it right away, but just the fact of going through that pace of reading it is really going to help you start to click when you are in the real world coding and you are going through these things, and then it's going to understand. Because sometimes some of the stuff that you read is not going to make sense right away. At least I know for me. In the beginning, I was just like, okay, what does this mean? You know, and it took me a while, but it took me that learning of, well, if I just go with it, it'll eventually make sense. So that's my video for today. So I hope that you all have a great weekend. I will see y'all on Monday, because I will be posting my episode on Monday, and I will let y'all know at least by noon. I will be posting the thumbnail of it on Instagram. So, and my Instagram is Medical Coding with Blue. All right, so I'm going to wrap this one up. If you are a medical coder, a medical coding student, somebody curious about the fascinating world of medical coding, a provider or a nurse, I invite you to like and subscribe and follow me on my journey in medical coding. I will see y'all next time. Bye.